from my phone. So welcome, Cathy Casey, and today we're discussing with Cathy psychological freedom and lightness amidst challenge. And I want to start by introducing Cathy personally and then give you a bit of Catherine's bio. But I want to start by saying that I met Cathy about 4 or 5 years ago. I had the honor of having breakfast with her in Los Angeles. Right. And Cathy, you said something to me that rocked my world. You may not remember it, but what you said to me was, you said, Grace, I'm not about you having a better experience. I'm about helping you be really okay exactly where you are. And at the time, I was going through a lot of self-improvement, and you have to improve your circumstances. So when I heard that from Cathy, I felt hope, and I felt really connected to her message. And I wanted to bring Cathy on here today to go further on that. So welcome, 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 Cathy. It's lovely to have you here from California.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that was 4 lifetimes ago, I think.
Yeah, it feels like it. But just for the don't know you, Catherine, I do want to share just a little bit of your professional bio. Sure. And just because it's very impressive too, much as it was a nice personal intro. But Catherine has been teaching the 3 principal programs to a wide range of people in many different environments throughout the world for the past 25 years. She's implemented a principle-based resiliency program in Santa Clara Valley Medical Center, and she has conducted trainings in Belgium, Israel, Finland, Norway, and Russia. Anybody wanting to advance their consulting and coaching careers, also seek her out at this time for mentoring services. And many of the environments that Catherine has consulted in include Fortune 500 corporations, medical centers, Boston Scientific. I mean, the list goes on. It's incredible. Catherine's passion and vision, I think this is the most important bit, is to reignite the resiliency and wisdom in all persons in any environment through the understanding of the 3 principles. And she currently lives in San Jose, California. Wow.
I'm feeling old. Now I'm feeling tired and old.
That is impressive.
Kind of like, did I really do all that? I don't remember any of it. Anyway.
Well, it's lovely to have you here, and I'm so glad we're talking about psychological freedom today, Cathy. You know, I think this is a very important topic at the time based on just everything that's going on. So just to jump straight in, you know, what do you mean by psychological freedom?
Oh, that's a good question, because when I first heard it, it really struck me when I heard that, because and to be honest with you, I started to really understand what that was by working with inmates who were locked up in the criminal justice system. Because, you know, of course, they're physically locked up, so they don't have physical freedom. You know, that's it. Once you're locked up, you're locked up. Now, we're getting a tiny taste of that right now in the shelter in place. I mean, we can still walk out the door, and so it's starting to impact people that they can't be as free as they usually are. But it was the inmates who really taught me about psychological freedom. And I'm thinking of one particular gentleman, and in the high secure unit, I was asked to teach the principles in one of the worst units in our main jail. They called it Thunderdome, because there was so much fighting and you know, gangs and violence and all the rest. And they asked me to go in and work with these guys. So I jumped at the chance, of course. And there are 50 stories from that experience. But when it comes to freedom, psychological freedom, this gentleman, I'll refer to him as Joe, he really taught me what that really meant. And so here's his story. He was, when you walk into the unit, you'll see different colors. Some are wearing orange, some are wearing green, but anybody who's wearing a red shirt is in there for killing another person. So that means they've done that. So most of the people in that group had red shirts on. So this particular gentleman, he was young, he had been a college student, and he was affiliated with gang. And because he was with the gang when somebody was killed, he was automatically charged as if he killed the person. So if you're gang affiliated and you're there, that you get charged, and that's how it works. So he's in there for murder. And throughout that process, when I first got in there, he kept trying to convince me that he shouldn't be locked up because he didn't do it. He was a college student. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So he was constantly trying to kind of work me, so to speak. And finally one day I looked at him and I said, well, are you kind of realizing that maybe the more you keep saying you're innocent, the more you sound like you're not innocent? And it didn't dawn on him that would happen. And that sort of struck him. I mean, that kind of stopped him in his tracks. After that, he started to settle down and just be in the class and learn. Well, he went through trial. He went through the whole trial process, and his understanding went so deep about who he was, his innate resiliency, his innate natural intelligence, and he also started to feel free. And I didn't hear that from him until after. So first he was found guilty. So now he's guilty. Then they go through the sentencing phase, and it was either going to be the death penalty or life without parole. Those were the two options for this young man. So this is pretty serious stuff here. And as he really learned these principles, there was a lightness about him. I was a nervous wreck. I actually went to the sentencing part of where he was getting sentenced. That's where a jury decides. So they have a separate jury to decide. But prior to that, I got to be at his trial before he was found guilty. No, I take that. No, I was there for the sentencing part of it, and I was able to present to the jury, not to say he was innocent or he shouldn't get the death penalty. I was there just to show them what he had learned, not who he's a good guy and all. I just wanted them to know that when a human being has a change in consciousness, or when they wake up, they can contribute to this planet, whether they're locked up or not. So to put them to death just didn't make sense. So, and I also had a video that we had taped people learning the principles, and I was able to show that to the jury. The judge had to watch it first because the prosecutor objected, but the judge watched the video, and the judge said, I think the jury could watch this. So the jury got to watch this fabulous video, and he was given life without parole. But you know what he told me, because I got to talk to him right before, and I got to talk to him right after, which is kind of a big deal because they usually whisk them away. But I had a good relationship with the jail, the commander of the jail. So prior to finding out, he said, you know what, Cathy, I'm okay either way. I'm okay either way. If I get life without parole or if I get the death penalty, I know that I'm going to be okay no matter what. And that, I'm hearing, and I'm a nervous wreck. I'm the one because he's such a great guy. I'm the one who, I was like his mother, He was calm. He was helping me calm down. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. And then after he was given life without parole, I was able to interview. We actually have this on tape somewhere. Somebody has because we had a film crew. And we interviewed him, and you know what he said? He said, and he was chained, his ankles were chained, his wrists were chained, and he was chained to the wall. So he's in chains. And he's saying to me, Cathy, I feel I probably have more psychological freedom right now than most people out there on the street. And wow. See, he discovered, he connected to that he still has a life, and that he can, of course, who wants to be locked up, but he can still do many things even though he will be locked up for life. So the last I heard, he finished his high school, he finished his college degree, and I think he's teaching other inmates, academic studies, and I'm sure he's sharing the principles. So See, to me, the freedom is not the place or the environment or even our situations. I'm working with a group, and a woman shared that she's living in the same house as her ex-husband, and he's with his girlfriend, and they have to be in the same house. And she's just flipping out. And yesterday she says to the group, all of us, I can't believe this. I started to go down. I started to get upset. I started to hate being here. And I was just going, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, wait a minute, I'm creating that. I'm just not present right now. She saw that she still had this freedom, even though she was trapped in this, what we would consider not a great situation. So psychological freedom is just realizing at a very deep level that nobody can take that from you. Nobody can impact, that space inside of you. The only thing that can impact it or take it away from you is your human mind. That's it. Your human mind is the only thing that and what I mean by human mind, I mean our personal thinking. So that to me was, I was now a student listening to him. He was teaching me what psychological freedom is. Now, we're in our everyday lives. We're not in a situation where we're going to be doing life without parole. But how many of us do feel trapped? We feel like, oh, I'm in this job and I'm stuck and I have no options, or I'm in a relationship and I have no. See, we create our own jails, or we create our own bars innocently. We innocently create these ideas in our mind that say we're not free. And I'm so grateful to see that in him. And of course, I could tell you many other stories in that vein, but yeah, it's all freedom is within. It's another way to describe that natural intelligence or a resiliency, or there's so many words to describe this core of pure thought.
It's so hopeful, Cathy.
Yes.
Especially for people right now that are, in lockdown and just freaking out about the situation. Can you talk a little bit about, what you were sharing? There are people on the call here have never come across the principles.
Oh, okay.
Perhaps. So could you talk a little bit about, how does one go from being locked up to having that level of freedom?
Yeah.
Tell us what you were up to.
Yeah, it's so simple. Well, here's the thing. All that you need to appreciate, and I think most of us don't really see this. I mean, I was 45 years old getting a degree in clinical psychology, and I didn't see this. And it's kind of funny looking back at it now. But just the fact that we're all thinking beings, every one of us right now, you are in thought. There's no getting away from it. And when I say you're in thought, I mean, if you didn't have thought, you would not exist. I'm not just talking about, we have little thoughts and we think about this and that. No, I'm talking about we have the capacity to think. And that's just coming through us. And we're in it, from the moment you're born till the moment you die, we are literally thinking our way through life. But most of the time we're looking outside of ourselves and sort of making meaning about that's good, that's bad, this is up, this is down, as opposed to, I'm in a lot of thinking right now, so that's why that's looking bad, or I'm really in a light state of mind, and that's why everything looks great. See, it's kind of like we're doing a paradigm shift here. We're shifting things. So life out there isn't giving me my experience. I'm in thinking, and that's what's giving me my experience. And see, that's what Joe woke up to. He woke up to the fact that his life is created by him through his thinking. He saw that. And so it wasn't like he had to settle. So if you have thinking, I'm screwed, I'm trapped, and you think, well, that's it. It's a done deal. It's in cement. No, thought is formless. It's like smoke. It comes and it goes. But wherever that is, that's what we're going to get. Wherever your mind is. And we all know that. We all know that. It's just that we have to kind of remind ourselves that we're just thinking beings. And so if you've got a lot on your mind, you're going to feel that. You know, how many of us, you know, we got 20 things on our mind while we're doing the one thing in front of us. Well, that creates a heaviness. That creates a feeling in us. And we just need to see that connection. So if I look at the situation, you know, I get to go to the grocery store, but oh man, I've got to wear a mask, and are there going to be too many people there? I mean, I'm tripping by the time I get to the grocery store. And this happened yesterday. I'm like, you know, like this is like going and getting a root canal. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, they're going to work on my teeth and it's going to be horrible. That's how it felt. And when I finally got to the grocery store, I thought, oh man, what are you doing, Cathy? I'm not even in the store yet. And I'm having this whole experience, you know, which when I got there, that parking lot was half empty. There were hardly any people at the store. I got to, you know, browse around and look at stuff, and I got everything I needed. And the only thing is my mask got a little too tight, but that was my only complaint. But it's funny what we create. We are meaning making machines. We're constantly making meaning. But see, I could easily get people to agree with me and say, well, yeah, of course you should feel that way, because that's how those grocery stores are. And you have a right to feel that way. Well, no, my relationship to the situation is there. We're going through this. But my relationship to that can only come through my own thoughts. And that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, for myself, it was such a wake-up call when I came across this, you know, to just drop out of so much seriousness, Cathy. I didn't realize how serious and self-conscious I was living. And so coming across this understanding and just being exposed to, you know, incredible teachers like yourself, it helped me to lighten up. Like, can we talk a bit about lightheartedness? Because so many people are calling at the moment. And say, oh, you know, the situation's serious, the situation's terrible. What do you see about lightheartedness in humans, Cathy?
Okay. Well, see, lightheartedness, God, I can't say the word, is lightness. Lightness is built into us. Okay. That's the point. So when I say we're thinking beings, we come into the world, we're born into thought. We're just, you know, you see little babies, they're in thought, they're thinking. And as thoughts coming through, at times there's going to be 20 layers of thought coming in all at the same time. And other times there's going to be maybe 3 layers of thought coming through. These are just metaphors, you know, visual. And every now and then they're just little, you know, lots of space between the thoughts coming through. So a lightness means you don't have a whole lot on your mind. And for some reason, we were all sort of, you know, we learned or we were conditioned to think a lot. You know, if you're going to get ahead in life, you got to think a lot. Set your mind to it. You know, think. And so we start thinking about everything. Well, that's what creates that heaviness. The lightheartedness is still there. That's the good news. It's just buried under, it's like having 50 blankets on top of, you know, like a cupcake. You know, the cupcake's still doing okay, you know, because we put a little bubble around it, but we have all these blankets on top of it. But the cupcake's not going to get squashed because there's this little plastic bubble on top of it. Well, that's us. We have this core that can never be diminished or taken away. We've just innocently gotten busy in our mind. Now, I'm not saying you should stop thinking a lot. See, that's not what this is about. I think I just want people to appreciate how much thought they're in, because we really don't know. We have no idea how much thinking we're in, but we can certainly feel how much thinking we're in. And so that's what I would say to people. If you're feeling serious and feeling the weight of the world, or you're getting concerned, or you're urgent or impatient or anxious, all that's saying is you've got a ton of thought on your mind. Now, it's amazing, just realizing that can help. Just getting a really glimmer of that. Like, oh, instead of keep looking at the situation, which creates more thinking, I now, if I get into that heavy feeling like, oh, things are bad, and when I watch the news, you know, so many deaths and so many people and all the stories, and pretty soon I'm crying and I'm feeling bad, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I'm getting a tsunami wave of thought.
Yeah.
I don't keep looking outside of myself. I look inside and I say, okay, Cathy, you just got more than you realized. And that's okay too.
I loved it, Cathy, when you described it a couple of years back. You described it as, you know, being in towers of thought. And it was such a great visual for me because, you know, it just always came back to me, you know, the feeling of seriousness is a tower of thought. So that was
yeah. I always say, think of the tallest building in the entire world times 20. And we can visualize, you know, having that much thought, and we're all walking around in it, and we get so used to it, it feels normal. See, we build a tolerance to it until eventually, you know, one little extra, you know, think of a pitcher of water filled to the brim, and we're all walking around with you know, we're all filled to the brim, and then put that one extra drop of water in, and it all spills over. And that's when we, you know, get emotional or get reactive or whatever the feeling's going to be. It's just that we're in more than we realized. So it's more not feeling bad about that. It's just appreciating it, having compassion for ourselves, and don't make meaning about the fact. Just see it for what it is. Just see it. And then from there, as soon as you realize
I love that you described that as psychological.
I missed that.
I love that you describe that as,
yeah.
You know, can you speak a little more to that? Because when we see people,
what that means is, what that means is, this is my best metaphor. Think of a kid in 3rd grade, and you give him a physics book, and you say, okay, read the first 5 chapters where you're going to take a test at the end of the week. So the kids, he looks at the book and he's looking, but he doesn't understand. Would we expect him to pass that test? Unless he's a prodigy or something. But no, we wouldn't expect him to pass that test, because we would see his innocence. There's no way, he's too young to absorb that. So we wouldn't judge him for that. Well, it's the same for all of us. The inmates in jail, I didn't agree with what they did. I make that very clear. I do not agree with what they did. But given their level of understanding of how life works, I can see they innocently did something because they didn't know they were in a thinking state. They didn't know that they were creating whatever experience they were having. And many of them say, if a thought came through their mind about, well, this guy, he dissed one of my gang members, well, we have to go kill him now. Never considered that could just be a passing thought. Because we've all had these extreme thoughts come through, like, man, I'd like to, you know, take a knife to his tires. You know, I want to slash his tires because you're mad at somebody. You know, we've had those thoughts, but we know that they're thoughts. We know that they're irrational thoughts. But if you don't know that what thought is at all, then if you have a thought, you think, well, I've got to go with it now. And I heard that a lot. Well, Cathy, if I see a guy and he, you know, did something against me or my gang, well, in our mind, it's an automatic thing. We just go out and try to kill him. Now that they've learned this, they look at me and they go, had we known this, we wouldn't have done that. I said, I know. See, they take responsibility now. Like, we didn't know we were thinking. They were in thought and they didn't know it. They were just at the mercy. So to me, psychological innocence is wherever your level of understanding is. Like, if I get upset with somebody at the grocery store and I start yelling at them, you know, just go off on them. Well, in the moment, you know how you talk about blind rage, they say blind anger. Well, what that means is you're in so much thinking, you can't see beyond it. So in a way, you're innocently doing whatever you're doing. And that's something people have to discover for themselves, but we're all doing the best we can given what we know. Every human being is doing the best they can. If they're shooting up heroin, they're just trying to be okay. If they're fighting with other gang members, they're just trying to be okay. everybody's just trying to be okay. It's that how we go about it gets confusing because they think they're looking at life from the outside in. Like I have to, protect myself. So that unit that I went into where there's lots of fighting, over time, no more fighting. And the correctional officers, they weren't happy about me being in there because it was a high risk for them, high risk for me. And when they noticed the fighting started to go away, they were looking at me like, what are you doing with these guys? How did that happen? See, when people understand that they're thinking beings and they create their experience, as they slowly get that, they just naturally reconnect to their wisdom, naturally reconnect to that deeper part of them. And I've seen it time and time again.
Love that.
Yeah.
So one of the things we connected on, Cathy, when we spoke initially was, people running out to the supermarkets over there to get toilet roll and the innocence.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah. Well, again, it's back to, people just want to be okay. And as bizarre as that seems, it's interesting, Easter's coming up. And although my grandkids are Jewish, but yet they celebrate Easter too, because I'm not Jewish. So my son was raised Jewish, but then we did Christmas and, anyway. So I wanted to go out and get some Easter stuff for my grandkids. Well, I couldn't go out because, I'm trying to limit how many times I go out because I'm 70 years old. And I'm going online and it's like, I'm getting obsessed with getting chocolate Easter eggs and little jelly beans. And I just became obsessed with it. And I thought, you know what? It's not the end of the world if they don't get their little Easter stuff. I mean, it's just so, I built this whole thing in my mind that I would not be a good grandmother if I didn't do all this. And it's funny because it wasn't about them. It was about Cathy. Cathy would feel like she was, deserving, or I should be a good grandmother. See, we're always doing things to be okay. In the moment we think, well, if I have enough toilet paper, okay, then I'll be okay. And I'm ready for whatever's going to happen. So I can relax now. It's like my sister, she called me, or she sent a text with the picture of, she finally got toilet paper from Costco and the order came through. She took a picture. It made her day. And I thought, look at where we've come. You're in pure joy because you got 38 rolls of toilet paper. But that we're innocently doing that because our anxiety level is so high. Somehow toilet paper has become symbolic of, well, if I have enough toilet paper, I'm going to be okay on many different levels. Take them to bed with you, put the rolls around you. But I know it seems silly, but no, people really, really are just trying to be okay. They are innocently doing this to feel secure when actually they're secure already. They're just assigning it to the toilet paper. Mm-hmm. See, I'm okay whether I have it or not.
This is what I loved about your message, that it's not about getting a better experience. It's about being really okay exactly where you are. It's just so powerful.
Yeah.
I feel like the audience today.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Does anyone have questions? And please, it's often the question that you think, oh, I don't want to ask that. But if anyone here would like to unmute their line and ask Cathy a question, please do come forward and or raise your hand if you know how to do that. But we're really open to questions here.
Yeah, please do. I love questions.
I have loads of questions, but I want to give a chance for everybody here.
Are people being shy today?
There might be. I hope that they know how to do it.
Here's somebody.
Oh, great.
How do you pronounce your name?
Oh, no, that's me.
Yeah. Oh, that's you.
Hey, that's my name in Irish.
Oh, I'm thinking you're a whole separate, because I have you on the small screen. How funny. Okay, that's
Yeah.
you. Nobody wants to ask me a question? Any question?
And Audra, Charlie, any questions? Mandy?
Grace, I'll ask you a question.
Oh, Angela.
Okay, where's Angela? Oh, I'll put speaker you.
Come on. Who just came on?
Okay, I see her.
Hi, Cathy. Sorry.
Oh,
hi. Yeah. I was really listening to when you were talking about the inmate and about that his experience. You know, we don't have to change our experience to actually be okay. There's so many scenarios right now in my own world that started to pop up, particularly at the moment for me. I'd just been on a retreat with Grace, which was amazing. And one of the questions that I'd asked at the time, that I felt as if I hadn't got permission in myself to do more creative things because I was so busy working, earning, doing the other things. It felt that there wasn't enough space in my life to do other things. And I've been really sitting with that over the last couple of days. And what really prompted me was to sort of ask the question around being more creative and allow, you know, I suppose for me the time question around when you're wanting to be more creative, and I would put off my creativity because I was waiting for a better experience of having less debt, more time, etc., in order to be more creative. And I'd love you to, I don't even know how to formulate the question, but you're nodding, which is around allowing or finding the ways to see that come into our lives right now. When I saw that I had been waiting until I'd paid off the credit cards, waiting until I'd got more time. I'll put the money into my daughter's dance. So when you talked about not feeling a great grandma, you know what I mean, until you got the Easter egg, there was so much stuff that was starting to just pop up to me right then about, God, that's absolutely true. I do this so I can feel like I'm a better mum, or I'm doing all this stuff. And I felt that I filled my life with so much other stuff that there's been no space to be creative or to see how wisdom could come up in another way. And so I wonder if you could speak into that. That'd be really helpful for me, I think.
Well, it's funny. I think you're not alone at what you're describing. I think a lot of people, regardless of whether they're sitting in jail or they're successful business people or whatever, I think we have a high expectation of ourselves. We're constantly, you know, how am I doing mode? Am I doing enough? And I think, you know, we just learned that for, you know, to get ahead in life, it's all about do, achieve, you know, and of course we want to achieve and we want to accomplish things but it's funny, we get so, it takes so much thought to achieve and to obtain and to, you know, do all these wonderful things and try to be the best mother and the best parent and the best grandma and the best, think of the tallest building in the entire world. And we're walking around in that. And so of course, you're not going to feel that space. See, we create our experience of space and time. We create that. It's not the stuff out there that we're doing. And it's interesting because I used to watch there's some people that they amaze me. They're doing so many different things, but it doesn't look like it's like taking a toll on them. You know, like they just seem to be, it's like a flow. Well, it's because they're just not carrying a lot of extra thought about it. I heard there was an interview on TV here in the States where the interviewer interviewed very successful CEOs of huge companies. And he asked the CEOs, he said, what do you look for when you go to hire somebody? And this really impacted me. And each one of them said in different ways, but they were saying the same thing. Well, we look at what they've accomplished, But we've also looked at when they failed, what did they do after? And that was intriguing, because they said, yeah, it's great we can achieve things, but we want to see how people are with the fact that they aren't successful all the time. And do they make meaning from that, and they brush themselves off and say, okay, somehow missed that, what's next? You know, they're looking for their resiliency. They're looking for just this kind of sense of, well, I'm still okay, even though I blew it. And see, if we constantly are hard on ourselves and have expectations on ourselves, that's what's creating this kind of tightness in our lives. As opposed to, you know what? So right now you don't have space. Oh, well, why don't you let that be okay? You know, I want to be creative, but for some reason, it's just not happening. What would happen if you just let that be okay? And, well, I just don't see it right now. I'd like to see something, but you know, right now, I'm just going to be okay that I'm not creative or doing creative things right now. What do you think would happen if you just sort of allowed yourself to kind of take a vacation from constantly feeling like, oh, I wish I were more creative and I don't have time to be creative, and you know, that should, or I can't. What would happen if you just decided, well, this is as good as it gets right now?
I think I thought that I'd never get to it, or I'd just give up the whole idea.
That's it. And see the paradox? Because the more you focus on that you should be doing something, the further away it will get. It's a paradox. And if you could visualize, having a ton of thought, so you've got a ton of thought and you can feel the weight about how you should be doing more things. If you had no thought, it's all of that just disappears. What do you think starts happening?
Probably starts bubbling up, doesn't it?
Yeah, things start bubbling up. And who knows? See, when I say point yourself in that direction, okay, right now I'm not doing what I'd like to do. See, this is the problem. We're living in point A, trying to get to point B. So that means when I'm living in point A, I'm not 100% there because my mind is on the other thing. And that, I feel like the success I've had in my career and doing this work is because no matter what I was doing, I was 100% with it. Never really worried about what was next. I would kind of point myself in a direction. I would think, I would love to teach this in other countries. You know, I had a thought one day, wouldn't that be fun? That would be a fun thing to do. Then, okay, I'm just doing what I'm doing, loving every minute of it. And that's what attracted people to me. See, they would listen to me be where I am, and my energy was there. And so then people would say, oh, could you come to Jerusalem and do a seminar for us? Now, I didn't plan to do that. I was just enjoying and being in my life, whether it was being a grandma or teaching, or to me, it was all the same. It was all. So as soon as we start thinking ahead, we diminish that energy. We have less space. And so that's what you're experiencing. So when I get too much urgent about something or feel like I should do something, it doesn't take long for me to realize, you know what? I guess I'm just not going to do it, and I'm going to let that be okay. And then invariably it changes.
That so helped. A couple of things I wrote down before where I actually wrote down, I thought, my goodness me, I'm making up an experience before I even get to it.
That too. So you're never here now. See, if you're never here now, see, your joy and your satisfaction is in you now. It has nothing to do with anything you do. Now, I love to be with my grandkids. I do knitting. I love to do knitting. I love to read murder mystery stories. I love to do all that stuff. But I know my good feeling isn't coming from that stuff. If I can't do any of it, which I'm finding out now, I can't see my grandkids, I'm okay with it. I'm not like I don't feel like I'm missing out. I'm fine whether I'm with them or not. So that's something that's an insight you're having. I'm creating this thing that doesn't exist yet. Well, you're also creating scarcity within yourself.
Yeah.
So I hope that, food for thought. So all you need to do is kind of catch yourself when you start doing that, because you're going to keep doing it. You're going to say, oh, I should be, or, oh, I wish I could, or but just notice it and kind of go, oh, well, that's interesting. I'm doing that again, and just see it.
Thank you, Cathy. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was a great question, Angela.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Anyone else have questions for us, for Cathy?
Yeah, I want to make it relevant.
Just feel free to unmute your line and come on, or raise your hand if he's here.
Amanda, did you unmute yourself?
Am I on mute?
Yeah, you're unmuted. I can hear you. Yes.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to Grace's question earlier, which perhaps you answered and I missed it, but she spoke about the 3 principles that you'd explained to her.
Yeah.
Could you just run through those briefly again?
Okay, well, I'm not going to so much do a definition. I just want you to, it's just so simple. I just want you to just appreciate that you're just in thought all the time. I mean, we know that, don't we? We know we think about this, we think about that, but I want you to see that at a deeper level. I want you to see that thought is literally creating your life, that whatever's in your mind, that's what you will experience.
Yeah.
That's, if you could just get a sense of that for now, that's all I would recommend. There's more to it, but to me, that's the most important thing. Is I'm a thinking being, and if I'm thinking I don't have enough time, then I will experience I don't have enough time. If I think I don't have enough money, even if I don't have enough money, or I can't pay the rent. So if I keep thinking, oh, this is bad, I don't have enough money, I can't pay the rent. Well, what happens is our minds get, it's kind of like if you have a telescope and you're looking the wrong way, have you ever done that? Or binoculars, you look the wrong way and everything looks tiny. Well, that's what happens to our mind if we literally are in this, oh, I don't have enough, or I need more, or this is bad. See, the more thinking we have, the more constricted our view. And so, and the only way we know we're going there is we feel bad, we feel anxious or whatever. So when I feel that feeling of anxiety or like urgency or whatever feeling, take your pick, that helps me realize, oh, I'm just in a lot of thinking right now. Now, I can't make myself not think it, but knowing what it is, I stop looking at the situation. I just appreciate, okay, now I'm making a lot of meaning about the fact that I don't have money. Well, if I realize that my mind is getting too tight and I kind of come out from under that, I can get a wider vantage point about, well, what could I do to get more money?
Yeah.
It'll help me kind of look further around and see, what is possible. So for me, when I started out as a consultant, that was a big change for me. Instead of getting paid every 2 weeks, and I had my it was a regular job, I became a consultant. Well, all of a sudden, it wasn't, the same all the time. And I remember, and I was very busy, had a lot of business, doing great, but all of a sudden things started to slow down a bit. And I started to get nervous. And I called my dear friend and mentor, Linda Pransky. I called her up. I said, yeah, my phone isn't ringing as much, and I'm a little nervous about that. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I better jump into a permanent position. And so right away I realized I was just in a lot of thinking about that. But she said, all right, she says to me, she said, now I'm going to tell you something right now. And she said, and it's going to be advice. I'm going to give you advice. And I said, I'm up for advice. Because she and George went through the same thing. She said, here's the deal. when you're working and you've got a lot of work to do, just work your heart out. Just work. Do it. When you're not working, enjoy the heck out of that too. Enjoy not working, because when you start working again, you're going to regret that you didn't enjoy when you weren't working. And that made sense to me. I said, wow. And she said, because if you worry during the time you're not working, that literally kind of keeps you from seeing possibilities or options, or you don't connect to people. And you know what? And that was how many years ago? That was a long time ago. I got that advice, probably 25 years ago. And from that point on, if there are gaps in between and things aren't happening as much, I don't go into worry anymore. I just go, okay, I'm going to enjoy the downtime. And you know what's funny? I love being with my grandkids. I was doing a little of this work, mentoring and coaching, but I was doing more of my the grandkids stuff. Well, all of a sudden I can't be with my grandkids. And I thought, well, I have a lot of downtime. This is going to be fun. Guess what? That's filling up now with more coaching and mentoring and doing these webinars. So I thought, well, isn't this interesting? Because I wasn't even looking for it. So that's what we're talking about, is just see how thought works through us and the nature of it. So having more is not going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And if you are in a lot more, then just realize it. Just see it like, okay, I'm in it. I'm thinking too hard about something, and just have compassion for yourself, and just appreciate, because we are funny thinking beings. We will think a lot. We will think ourselves into the deepest hole and then try to think our way out of it, which makes it even worse, as opposed to just kind of like, it's like what I said before. Would it be okay if you just let it be okay that I'm not creative right now?
Yeah.
You know, what would be the worst that would happen? So I hope that helps you get a sense of what we're talking about.
That was enormously. Thank you.
Yeah. Good
Oh,
question too. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, thanks, Samantha.
Yeah. Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
I
Who
want
else?
to jump in with a question as well, Cathy. I mean, if
Sure.
anyone wants to ask a question, now would be the time to put your hand up, because we're veering towards the end here. But Cathy, I wanted you to speak a little bit to restlessness and boredom, because again, you rocked my world in this area. Someone who was so restless and needed more.
Yeah.
Not realizing like what boredom. I think many people might be a little bit restless given we're in this lockdown situation. So can you speak to restlessness and boredom, please?
Well, I got to learn this from, I was working with kids in the criminal justice system, kids who are locked up for doing, things like stealing cars and, gang activities and all kinds of fun things. But anyway, I had a really good rapport with them, and we were just kind of hanging out one day. I had a class about 50 minutes long with them once a week. And so we would just hang out for most of the time. And then for 5 minutes, I teach them something, kind of slide it in. Well, at one point I looked at them, I said, so you guys, why do you do this stuff? Like what's up with stealing cars? Like a lot of them steal cars. And they said, well, Cathy, it's because we're bored. And I said, well, what do you mean you're bored? He said, well, we're hanging out and there's nothing going on. And, apparently they've shut down a lot of the recreation centers. There really isn't. I mean, I agree with them. There's not a lot for them to do. I said, so they said, so Cathy, we're so bored, but when you go to steal a car, man, that's fun. That's exciting. Boy, I'm telling you, it's just a challenge, and you got to figure it out. And guess what else? We make a lot of money. We make a lot of money when we steal a car. And I said, okay, well, I can see why you would steal cars. That makes sense. I would probably do that too if I were your age. And so, but then I realized the key thing for them was the boredom piece. And I said, well, when you say you're bored, they said, well, there's nothing going on. Like there's nothing outside of them to get their attention or to get them involved. And I asked them, I said, well, do you guys know what boredom really is? And they said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, what if I told you all boredom is it means you're going real fast on the inside. So your mind is thinking really fast, and there's a lot of thought just going faster and faster on the inside, which is making everything look slow on the outside. And they kind of looked at me and they said, could you say that again? I said, yeah, your mind is ahead. Your mind is ahead. You're constantly thinking. Well, when you're in that state of thought, when that's going on, it does make the day go slow. And I think all of us have gone through that. Have you ever had days where you're doing whatever you're doing, and you look at the clock and you go, oh man, it's only 2 o'clock? You know, you feel like the day is just dragging on. And other days you look at the clock and you go, is it really 3:30 already? And you go, where did the time go?
Yeah.
Well, see, that's an indicator of where your mind is. So for these kids, when their minds are just zooming, and believe me, these kids have zooming minds. They're bouncing all over the place in their heads. Of course, everything looks boring and slow. So one of the kids who really got into hearing this from me, the next week I came in and we started the class, and he said, Cathy, he raises his hand. I said, okay, what's up? He says, you were right about that. You were absolutely right. And I said, oh, great. I'm so glad I was right. What was I right about? And he said, you know, I always sit around all day long. I don't do any of the activities. All I can think about is what my buddies are doing on the outside and what my girlfriend is doing, and they're all having fun and I'm stuck in here. And that's all I thought about all day long. And it seemed like it was forever. Like I'm going to be in here forever. But you know what? After you said that, I decided to get involved with stuff here. And Cathy, time's moving fast now. See, he got it. He got it. But see, we can see it in our own lives. When you look around, if you feel like you don't have enough time, that's an indicator you got a ton of thought. If you feel like you have all the time in the world, as you're doing whatever you're doing, that means your mind is free and clear. You're in the flow, you're just in the moment. And we've all experienced that. And you're doing the same thing, you're doing the same things, but your experience of it changes from day to day. And so I used to think it was the clock. You know, there's something wrong with that clock. It can't be just 2 o'clock. It's got to be 4 o'clock. But guess what? No, it's because my mind is zooming. And that's what makes time look slow. It's a paradox, isn't it? When I'm just in the moment and present and just connected and I'm just doing what I'm doing, time goes by. We have a timeless feeling. So yes, we have clocks, but we create time. We create our experience of time. So when I feel like I have all the time in the world, and you can talk to athletes, they talk about this. When they're out doing, like a basketball player, you know, the time is, you know, they got to make a basket within 3 seconds. A lot of them say when they're in the zone, and it's like they have all the time in the world to take the ball and throw it into the basket. Now, on the outside, everything's really fast, but on the inside, they are in the zone, and it's like they have that experience. And a lot of them talk about that. When they're in the zone, it's timeless and it's accurate. And that's where they have they have the skills, but if your state of mind isn't if it's not in that zone, that's where they make mistakes or they miss the basket or whatever. So this is built into every human being, this sense of timelessness or being in the zone or being creative. There are different words to describe this connection that we have, and it's thought. It's still thought, but it's very light, pristine, clear thought.
Yeah.
And that's in us.
I really got it when I came back to Italy after a lot of traveling, Cathy, you know, because I used to think Italy was the problem. It's too slow. It's boring. I should be living here when I'm old, not when I'm young. And my experience of Italy completely shifted. I mean, it was incredibly different, just understanding, you know, that where the state of mind was.
It's the pace.
So, I mean, really hopeful, really helpful. The
That's, in Hawaii, that's a
pace.
phenomenon. In Hawaii, when people go to Hawaii, the locals can tell who the tourists, especially if you go to a grocery store. The first time I went to Hawaii, and I go to the grocery store, and there's a line, and I'm waiting to pay, and the line's not moving, and I look ahead, and the checkout clerk, she's chatting with the person, and they're just chatting, and and I'm like, would these people move? I could just, and they see us a mile away. Oh, she's just off the plane. They can tell. 4 days later, I'm, hanging out, waiting to pay for my food. No big deal, because I've slowed down, and I'm at the pace that people who live in Hawaii, I slip into that pace. Well, that pace is in us, whether you're in Italy, Hawaii, or New York. But a lot of times I don't know how fast I'm going until I'm around people who are at a slower pace. And so that's a cool thing to realize. Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
Ladies, gents, anybody else with a question before we finish? Okay, we have Graziana. Do you want to come on, Graziana?
I love the name.
Graziana.
Where are you?
I'm
there
here.
She is. Hi.
Hi, Cathy. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. While you were talking about the concept of having all the time in the world, this is what actually we've been experiencing in all these days locked down, And the funny thing, especially having to work from home, I can see my days going through with this concept. I have all the time in the world, but sometimes it's already the end of the day, and when you're finalizing your things, you don't really know if you've done everything you had to do. The feeling, though, when you are in that feeling, the good thing is that no anxiety rises.
Right.
And the feeling is that, what couldn't be done today can be done tomorrow. And surprisingly enough, most of the times it gets done.
Yes. You're bringing up something in the corporate world. I run into this all the time, where people have a lot on their plate. They just, and somehow feel like they have to get through all of it. And they bring the same energy to every item.
Yeah.
When your mind is, when you're just present, when your mind is just settled down, you can look at what's on your plate and you can see everything that needs to get done. Well, it allows you to be able to discern, well, which is important, which is really important, and which is, well, it would be great to get to it if I can, but I'm not going to get urgent about everything on the list. It's like trusting that you'll know which ones to do and move those along. But I think people feel all this intensity and urgency about that list. So while they're doing the one thing in front of them, they're still carrying all the other things in their mind about what they have to get done. So again, think of the tallest building in the world. So you're doing what's in front of you with all of that. So that's where people feel pressure and a time crunch. Whereas if you're just in the moment and taking care of business as needed, responding to what's important, and you're able to have a better, to make those decisions, to be able to discern, what's important. And also you end up doing more than you would get done instead of having all this other stuff. But people have a lot of anxiety. I worked with a group of professional women, and their big issue was they got so many emails. They're high-level positions in county government here, hundreds of emails, and it was overwhelming for them. And so as they were learning this, we didn't talk about emails, but one of the, she was an executive in the county, she went on vacation. She came back from vacation and she saw all the emails. Even though she gave the message, I'm going to be on vacation, there were still, I think she said 800 emails. And she said she deleted all of them. And at first I went, oh my God, I didn't tell you to delete your, I mean, I thought I'm in trouble, you know, because she was in a key position in the county. I thought, oh my God, what have I done? And she just pressed the button and deleted every one of them. And I said, okay, you do know I didn't tell you to do that. She said, no, I know you told me. She said, but I decided, you know, how serious is this? How important is this email thing? So sure enough, she said, people, important things that were in the emails, they found me. What was really important, she said, somehow they got to her. And she realized that she had all this anxiety and urgency about all these emails, which is what kept her from even addressing it. So again, the other piece of the same woman, her doctor had told her she had to change her diet, exercise more because her blood pressure was too high, and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. When she came back from vacation, she had been back about a month. She went to see her doctor, and he says to her, he says, well, I'm so glad you're finally doing what I'm asking you to do, because her numbers improved. Her physical numbers improved. And she looked at him, she says, I actually haven't changed a thing. He said, well, what do you mean? How does this explain your numbers? Because her mind got so calm, and it wasn't in that intensity it used to be in, it actually brought her blood pressure down, because she was living in anxiety and urgency. So of course her blood pressure was up. So this is what you're saying is very profound. And I think working at home throughout this, people are having different experiences of it. And it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. My son is working at home with the 2 grandkids, and they send me pictures. He's sitting at the kitchen table, and the kids are running around, and you know, noise is going on, and he's there doing his thing. And he loves it. He's happy. Whereas at the office, he hates, he complains, but at home, he's probably getting more done at home than if he was sitting at the office. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting when people start sharing their experiences of that.
Yeah. And the concept of time, I have to say, does change.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
We create that. We create our experience of time. And the more we recognize that and just appreciate that. So if I do feel pressure, all I have to do is instead of keeping looking at the clock like, oh, I only have 10 minutes left, relax. You know, okay, come back. And then I get done what I need to get done.
Thank you so much, Graziana.
Thank you, Katie.
So I hope all that was helpful. I hope that was all helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Cathy, thank you so much for a wonderful experience here. I think everyone will agree that it was very, very helpful and very, very hopeful.
Yes.
So really appreciate the time to be here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is, like I said, all of a sudden I'm doing this now, which I love to do. I mean, I just love doing this, and I wish maybe one day we can all meet in person.
Yeah.
The London conference isn't going to happen, so it's going to be an online conference. I love going to London. I'm going to miss going to London. I've been to Italy a couple of times. I love Italy. So I'm hoping next year I'll go to Europe, you know?
Yeah, well, let's be...
Okay, Tom.
Pardon me, what did you say, Amanda? I missed that.
Cape Town. We'd love to have you in Cape Town.
Oh, you know what? I almost went. I almost went to, yes, but I just couldn't do it. The travel was just too much. Yeah, I almost went. It killed me to say no. It was the first time I said no to an event. It was just, I finally realized that, you know, Cathy, you just can't do it. So yeah, one day I hope to go. I hope to go.
Yeah, we'd love to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we'll close it there, Cathy. Thanks for your time.
Happy Easter and happy Passover, and for whatever people are celebrating, and just hang in there.
Much better after that.
Thanks a lot, Grace. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.